Thanks, guys. And that's right, I've got Lance Healy with us today. He's our next live guest on FreightWaves Now. Lance, thank you for joining us this morning. Give us a little update about yourself and about your company.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I founded Banyan Technology about 20 years ago, and really focused on, we brought kind of API connectivity to the LTL space before APIs were really cool. So that's what we've been focusing on pretty heavily. And then there's a whole new trend with some dynamic pricing and new opportunities and a lot of change and opportunities for growth in LTL right now, and for carriers to really take advantage of the sun that's shining. So.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Hey, Lance, good morning to you, my friend. Welcome for being on. No blues harp or bongos this morning, my friend. We need to keep it strictly. Yeah, we'll wait and do that later after the conference closes. But so LTL is absolutely insane, right? We've got this Fedex deal that's going on. Friday, 1,400 people, cut them off, boom. This is crazy. Right. Something went down with FedEx, right? To make it this aggressive of embargo, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly what happened within FedEx, but I think they really jumped on the opportunity that said, hey, we've got an opportunity to increase our yield. And if that means shifting around our customers and being able to chase freight that's more profitable, then they took some bold steps. I think what's going to be really interesting looking forward is for all of the LTL carriers, what are the opportunities? I mean, they've got a golden opportunity to really make an evolutionary change and kind of once in a generation shifts in how they interface and how they interact with their customers, because the needle is absolutely pegged in their favor right now. So it'll be fun to watch.
So obviously FedEx is a massive face, not only just in LTL, but in every aspect when it comes to their carrier status. Do you think that them making this big decision will kind of embolden other LTL carriers to be able to make that same decision and start to be a little bit pickier about where they go and whose freight they take?
Absolutely. We're already seeing it. There are a number of carriers, LTL carriers, that have already introduced some dynamic pricing solutions and tools. And what that gives them the ability to do is be more agile with their pricing so it better reflects their operations and their network, which is actually, LTL is constantly changing. So a lot of folks have been making changes and doing that, not quite as bold and aggressive as FedEx's 24-hour, notice, but that's been a trend that's already been happening kind of under the surface. But I think, yeah, we will see a lot more aggressive nature and other folks following their lead. So it'll be interesting.
And so now that other people, maybe have the courage, I guess, to take that aggressive step, how would you recommend that they do this or go about? What are some strategies for making these big time generational changes with your relationships with your customers without stepping on toes or burning bridges, something like that? Because, we talk a lot about how relationships are everything in this industry. You cut somebody off, if you burn them a little bit, they're going to remember that and it's going to affect you going forward.
Yeah.
So how as a carrier or how as an intermediary do you kind of change your relationship, change the way that you do things without hurting your customers and hurting those relationships?
Yeah, I think there's some new technology that's coming out that's going to help facilitate this, but it's really being transparent and working with the carriers, and the shippers also have to switch and be transparent as well. So if the carrier says, "Listen, if you reduce your packaging, I can help you out, but for the volume that you're taking up on my truck, you got to keep that, get a little smarter about it, reduce my dwell times, pay me on time." All of those factors are going to come into the type of business that the LTL carriers want to pick and choose from. And quite honestly, they have that ability to do it now. They just need the tools and then work with their customers directly to change their behavior.
Yeah, so Lance, it's interesting because I see this as this chance for many carriers to stop admiring the OR of Old Dominion and actually make steps to get there, right? It kind of, instead of going, man, I wish I could do that stuff. Now they've kind of it's almost said, oh, the door's open, go give it a try, right? And you mentioned this dynamic pricing, and that's the way things used to be, right? I mean, or still are in many cases, is managing your embargoes and how profitable you are. Like FedEx, they cut off this stuff to improve their efficiencies and their profitability. Obviously, that's the end goal. They're not they're in it to make money. But
Sure.
you would change pricing or your service standards or your freight mix. You're always looking at your freight mix. How much class 55 small heavy stuff do I have? How much class 400 to put over top of do I have? And all the stuff in between. Dynamic pricing lets you do that in real time, does it not? Isn't that what you're implying there with that?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And what it does is it basically mitigates the risk for shippers as well as carriers because people are doing annual contracts. Who knows what you're going to ship and where you're going to ship it? As a manufacturer distributor, you're making a guess, right? At the same time, the carriers are having to guess what's my network going to look like over the next year. So everybody's got to put some pad on it. Where if they change from an annual contract and just say, hey, let's revisit this every month and let's just polish the pricing based on reality rather than what we think is going to happen a year from now. I mean, it just makes sense. It's constantly changing. It should have pricing that fits that.
Well, it would reduce the probability or the percent that you could have this aggressive embargo like FedEx just did, right? If you're constantly negotiating instead of getting that email on a Friday going, well, crap, my weekend's gone. I got to figure out what to do for Monday, right?
Yeah, and there's good freight that they're throwing out with the bad freight too. And what dynamic pricing allows you to do is say, you know what, I don't have to I don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I just have to, pick and choose what's right for me. That's all.
So let's talk a little bit about the willingness to change and how some of these carriers or some people who have been in leadership in these positions might necessarily be unwilling to change the way that they're interacting with their shippers or with their 3PLs and really kind of get stuck in their ways. Are those folks who are stuck in their ways or aren't seeking this willingness to change, whether that be adapting their policies or adapting their technology, are they just going to get left behind and eventually fade out of the industry because they're unwilling to adapt?
I think, most all of the LTL carriers that we've talked to are working with, they're very, very bullish and aggressive on change and technology adoption. They are making up a lot of ground from, other industries that have been more advancing or more rapidly advancing over the last 20 years. So there's a bigger leap to make in the LTL market than say, some of the final mile and those efforts. But no, I think their willingness is there. I think that everything's going to proceed with caution. But if they don't take this opportunity to start making those bold moves and aggressive changes, when this heyday is over in 2 to 3 years, I think it'll last. On the other side of it, the laggards are going to be in a very bad position.
Yeah, they've got a lot of opportunity. We talk about the possibilities of why FedEx did this, right? And there's all kinds of theories out there, and you can imagine things. It doesn't matter whether this actually caused it or not. But we talk about those. There's kind of like two valves on LTL, right? There's that e-commerce or smaller package valve where there's capacity there, but then there's the truckload valve, right? That kind of opens and closes depending on what is going on there. And those different pressures, both those pressures are coming in on LTL right now, right? And the e-commerce it brings with it additionally not just inefficient movement of small parcels, which LTL is not set up to do, these hand things. It's more palletized type of stuff, but also that residential deliveries. You don't want pups, 28-foot trailers and 48s and so on going into residentials. It's incredibly inefficient. You want to go to docks, bump a dock, get out, 5-minute deliveries max, right? Does this open up the opportunity to really tweak those type of things? Is that what you're implying as well as the pricing?
Yeah, absolutely. And you just had Steve Howard on from Esquire Express.
Yeah.
I'm heading out to Vegas next week for the CLDA show. He's the president of the CLDA as well as his day job. And that's all final mile delivery stuff. There is a lot of interactions there between where LTL can take advantage of farming out some of that residential delivery. Yeah, you don't want a 48-foot rolling down there Maple Avenue, trimming the trees and running over mailboxes. And it's not efficient for anybody. Also look towards some of the LTL carriers making their own investments into smaller straight trucks and smaller equipment to help facilitate that. That's coming.
Yeah,
So
excellent stuff. Excellent stuff.
Yeah.
We'll have to catch up with you again shortly in the near future and see how LTL is going and the new technology, new pricing, what the fallout is. I hope you'll accept our invite again next time. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, Lance.
Love it.
Thank you so much.
Lance, if people want to connect with you really quickly, where should they go to get connected?
Yeah, head to banyantechnology.com. Love to connect. LinkedIn. It's great.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank you. Or just go watch yesterday's episode of What the Truck, too.
What's that?
Go watch yesterday's episode of What the Truck.
That's
She
right.
was on there
Go to
too.
FreightWaves TV and check that out, or wherever you get your favorite podcast. Too. You can listen to Lance smack the skins of the bongos, man.
Playing it forward.